All right. In the last two sessions, we covered, you covered making and receiving offers, and those negotiation tactics. Today, we're going to move towards the focus of the sale process, and that's post-offer, meaning you have an accepted offer. One of the things I want to ask you is the following. Did anybody have any success yesterday with their daily success system? Here's what ends up happening. I promise folks that we get to get out of here early, and then folks don't participate, and then I sit here in silence because I'm not afraid of silence. You know what that looks like, right? And then we get really uncomfortable, and then we're late, and we haven't answered the question. So from yesterday's Ignite, what did you learn? What did you take away? What have you implemented?
I got few ideas of, like the process when you meet the client and then you initially put the offer and then the offer got accepted, and the workflow after that. So I sold my first home not too long ago, like 2 months ago, and
Congrats.
just to refresh to what I learned yesterday, it helped me a lot.
I love that. I love that. Congratulations on selling your first one. Many more
Thank
to come. There are many more to come.
Yeah, if I can add on that one is that the most thing that I remember is that they asked us to keep the communication open with the other agent. Whenever we submit or we are waiting, we have to keep the person informed so that the person is not unsure of what will happen.
I love that. Yes, Marie Claire, that's so true. And I'll tell you what happens. Teresa, I see you. I'll come right to you. One of the best sayings in real estate is what happens next is, right? So when you share what's going to happen next, it takes away that anticipation and angst for your client and often sometimes the other realtor, right? Here's what happens next. So yeah, great point. Thank you. Teresa, please go ahead. Sharon, I'll be with you in 1 second.
Okay, hi. I was just gonna say the 3 Ps,
Please share them.
the prepare, present, and position.
Yes, yes. Awesome. Thank you. Sharon.
Yes, I wanted to comment on when it talked about, particularly when we've been getting multiple offers the last couple of years. And I had a situation where I had 4 offers on this one house, and my seller wanted only the one that was paying cash. And that person happened to be not, I think she was familiar with what was going on, but she didn't think I was familiar with certain things. And if you're a cash buyer, you do have to present the information from the financial institution that you're getting your money from. And I asked for that information, and all I got was a plain sheet of paper with the big numbers on there of what she was paying for the property. And I go, this is not acceptable. And she came in for the inspection. It was the first time she'd seen the house. Her realtor had seen the house and told her she thought it was a good house for her to buy. And when she came in, she had the haughtiest attitude. I tell you, that was something else. And I said, this paper is not acceptable. So she went out to the car, slammed the front door, went out to the car, came back in. I was hoping that door would have kicked her in the butt and she wouldn't come back in, but she did come back in, and handed me a piece of paper that had a square on the paper and the banker's initials. And I said, this is still not acceptable. And it looked like she had cut the Bank of America letterhead off the top of the paper, glued it onto the top of the paper. I mean, I've been a paralegal.
Sharon, it sounds like you did. It sounds like you did what was right, and you protected your client from what could have been a very
disaster
situation around fraud. Oh my God, That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's right in line with where we are today, right? Today's session is about, and thank you, Sharon, for sharing. Today's session is about getting successfully to the close. Because it's true, not all deals do close, and it sounds like the one that you had there, my friend, may not have. So the best tactic is to be prepared and have the mindset of navigating the entire process successfully for your client.
Well, I
But,
just want to make a point that no, we didn't go with that seller
I would
and-
imagine.
or that buyer, because I had two other buyers and I told my client that. So we went to another buyer that had been pre-qualified, gave us the proper paperwork, and we moved forward with them, and they were a young couple, and it was very, very, very exciting to see them get the house.
That's awesome. Awesome. Yeah, I'm happy for I'm happy for you and your clients. So I'm guessing you guys learned prior to this, I'm sure that you have, the 6 core competencies. Well, the 5th one is coordinate the sale to closing, right? And that's getting to the table, we should say. It's an essential skill, having the ability to get to the closing, right? It's one of those core competencies that you really need to be able to look or get on the road to mastery around, because if you don't, it really hurts your ability to, have a successful business when you don't get the closings, right? We don't do this just to show houses. Are we all on the same page with that?
Yeah.
I would agree. All right, so today what we're going to do is develop transaction timelines. We're going to apply the best practice to avoid risk and identify ways to follow up after closing to build our business. Just to start, we're going to think about what you learned. I want you to think about what you learned today, and then let's consider any questions that we have and maybe even hold those towards the end, right? If there's a question that, comes up while we're doing this, please feel free to do so. Is that okay?
Yes.
Awesome. All right, so I'm sure you guys can see this, but it's sideways, and I am not the best with turning things around. So I'm going to just show you, we have timelines that get us from one point to the other. And I'm sure you've been through that. I'm so sorry about that slide looking that way. Can you see my slides? Callie, yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right. So I'm going to give you a quote real quick. And this one's from Gary Keller. And it's, real estate transactions aren't particularly trouble-free. It's a strenuous and trying time that requires all the attention and effort you can command. Right? When you hear that, what are some of your thoughts? One more time, I'm sorry.
Can you repeat that?
Oh, absolutely. Real estate transactions aren't particularly trouble-free. It's strenuous and trying, it's a strenuous and trying time that requires all the attention and effort you can command.
I think
it requires, like, it means that it requires focus and dedication. It's easy to be distracted and kind of let things go by the wayside, but it sounds like with real estate, that's not something that, like, you don't have the luxury to kind of let things go by the wayside. You really want to be focused. That's what it sounds like to me.
You're absolutely right with that. And I mean, what I would tell you is that the minute that you take your eye off the ball, that's when things get dropped. And, it takes one little thing not to go the right way sometimes to, really sink a deal. And yeah, you're hearing that correctly. Anybody else?
It makes me think of the million little things that happen between seeing a house and closing on a house, and not, it's like you're the duck on the water and everybody else sees a real estate or a realtor on that surface and above, and underneath you're just trying to keep going because you have things happening all over, and the communication with the client and anyone involved has to be A+, and it's a lot.
Kelly, absolutely right. Absolutely right. Uh, there are so many things that go into a successful transaction, and you're responsible for a good deal of them, or responsible for making sure that the people are responsible for parts of it get those things done. So yes, it can be really strenuous. One of the things I'll tell you is just because you get a lead doesn't make the person your client. And getting under contract doesn't mean closing a deal or getting paid, right? There's several steps in the process where a deal can fall apart, and it sometimes comes down to you managing the risk that goes into that and make sure that that contract gets to the closing table. Who on the call has bought or sold a home? So you know, right?
Yep,
Um,
I have.
right. Those people that are raising their hands, you know what it's like. All the things that you have to do to get a contract as a consumer, right? Just the pieces as a consumer, whether it's working with your, in some states, the attorney, other states, it's title company or abstract company, your agent, your mortgage company, your insurance company, and all those things, right? So having those timelines in place that allow for everything to be checked off is something that's really going to help you when you're in this process. Does that make sense?
Something that has helped me is that I will have a board just for that particular transaction and have the papers. I've got the lender's name, the title company, the other realtor, the other things that are involved with the closing to make sure everybody's on track for that closing date and what we need.
That's a really smart way of doing it. And you know, when it's visual, sometimes that helps us, Sharon. You're absolutely right. Like having that right in front of your face that you can say, you know what, I have other things going on in my life right now, and I totally forgot that, you know what, tomorrow's the day that we have to reply to an inspection or whatever that thing is, so that you have it right there in your face. So yeah, I love that approach. Anyone else? Any other thoughts?
I'm like Sharon, I have a board that makes sure that I check off everything that needs to be done.
That's a great way of doing it. That's an absolute great way of doing it. Another way that some folks will do that is that they will, and you guys have used Command?
Mm-hmm.
Inside Command, inside your opportunities, there's what's called the timeline or the pipeline, right? And a lot of times you can move people through there, right? It's been some time since I've done that, and only because I use a transaction coordinator, but she uses that, and I see her using that, right? Because you want to move people from that cultivate stage to the closing, right? It's like a game of Frogger, right? And having the whiteboard or having that flip chart, whatever that you use, that visual it's very helpful. Sounds like we all agree on that. All right. So the next question I would ask is, who's involved in this transaction? I know we're trying to keep a whole bunch of people in the timeline, but who are some of those people that we have to notify of what's happening in the timeline? So feel free to go just raise your hand or, you know, blurt out if you'd like, of some of the people that are in the transaction. I know that the buyer's in there, the seller's in there, you know, the buyer's agent, listing agent, but who are some of those other people that, you know, we have to keep up to date in this process?
The closing attorneys.
Closing attorneys, absolutely.
The mortgage, if there is one, the mortgage lender.
The mortgage lender, yep, absolutely.
Title company.
Yeah.
Who's that?
Title company.
Yes. Title company. Who else?
And if there's an inspection, you got to keep them informed of that.
Right. Yep. And like letting the inspector know, right?
Yeah.
What time the inspection is, or coordinating with whomever does that for you. Absolutely.
Appraisal.
Appraisal.
Yeah.
Yeah, big one, right? We need to know the worth or the value, I should say, excuse me.
The cooperating agent.
Cooperating agent. It's huge. Huge. Sometimes there's property managers involved, right? You may be buying a property that has tenants in it, right?
Mm.
Letting them know. You may be in touch with the movers on behalf of your clients, right? Or in coordination with your clients. Work that may need to be done pre or post settlement, right? Talking to contractors.
I had to my last buy was it was a treat. It was a relocation house. If anybody is aware, that's a real treat to deal with because it's not just the selling agent. Then you have to deal with them. You have to get permission. That was, and it was a cash buy too. There were so many pieces in that transaction that gave me such a migraine. And just to get through all of it, it wasn't such an easy thing because there was that added dealing with that relocation company because they didn't get the answers right away. Then you still had the technical homeowners. It was just a lot that added a layer that nobody wanted to deal with.
So let me ask the question. Did it get done?
Oh yeah, it got done. It was just a lot because I don't think the selling agent had ever dealt with it before. Or she did it had been a long time earlier. Even my mentor was like, yeah, I've never had to deal with this. So
Karen, can I ask you a question?
yes,
What was your key takeaway from that experience?
that that other thing should be easier. Now, it was as stressful as it was, but also gave me, okay, if I go through this again, this is what I need to watch out for. Because it wasn't just a simple, like when we sold their house, I dealt with one agent. I mean, the most stressful thing at that point, I think, was the fire inspection. We had a very short window and they had a tri-level home. So it's not a cookie cutter. Like the stairs are not, there was just so many things. And thank God the fire department in the town was so sweet to me because I actually took my laptop with the pictures and said, hey, where should we put these? He came to the house ahead of time, told me where they were supposed to go. So when the inspection happened, it passed. So like those were little things that as a tri-level home, and the way the ceiling fan was and all these things, like there's no way in God's green earth that would have passed had he not been kind enough to go with me and say, okay, this is what you need. So they
That's
would like these, he was so sweet because I took my laptop and I said, I had the pictures and I was like, tell me where it goes. He actually met me at the house ahead of time because he knew it wouldn't have passed if I didn't know where it went. So that was another thing because it wasn't a cookie cutter house. It
So
wasn't just,
would you say that was the major takeaway is that all the homes that you're going to sell or buy or sell or purchase with your clients are not going to be the same?
yeah, no. And it was as stressful as it was, it gave me that, oh, this could go wrong, or this is what I need to remember next time. And
So it sounds like, I'm sorry to cut you off. It sounds like you gained some experience. And one of the things I'll tell you about experience is if you use it correctly, you'll gain confidence, right? Because you can look back and say, that was a really difficult situation. And yet I got through it, right? And
Yeah.
I love that for you. So I'm going to move along if that's okay.
Mhm.
All right, cool. So you guys all have the, your participant guides. Like you're looking at a paper copy here,
Mhm.
the one I have on the screen. Yes, no, maybe so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Give me a hands up if you have it.
I'm looking on where to have that hands up. I don't have it.
Okay,
19.5.
19.5, yes.
19.5. So it doesn't look like everyone has it. If you do not have it,
I
please,
don't.
please feel free to take note the way that it's on the screen here.
Okay.
Oh, you can all see my screen, yes?
Yes.
Okay. So I would just like to go through and just when we're writing on the left side here, who's working directly with me to help my buyers with the transaction? And we went through a lot of those names already, but let's just go through that again. And please feel free to share And as we share, we're going to think about the buyer side, and then we're going to think about the listing side or the seller side after that. So who do we got helping us work on the buy side?
The seller's agent.
The mortgage lender, the attorney that represents the buyer.
Yes, yes, and yes. Who
Right,
else?
The appraiser.
The appraiser? Yep.
The contractor that fixes the stuff that the appraiser finds wrong.
Correct. Yes. Who else?
You need to be
The
in
inspector.
communication with the other agent.
Yes, yes. That's, yep.
Inspector,
Yes. Anybody else?
the mortgage lender.
Mortgage lender, yes. Here's the one that we often miss. Not miss, but we fail to consider.
Yourself.
The buyer themselves.
Yeah.
If the buyer's pushing against you, what's that gonna look like?
Yeah. No, I've already put down the buyer.
Help me help you, right? Help me help you. All right. Now, great job, folks, on that list. Now let's look at the seller side. Who's helping us there?
Seller.
Yep, there you go. See, you picked it up real quick. Who else?
And their mortgage company if they have a mortgage.
Yes. Who else?
The inspector.
Their attorney. Their attorney. Yep.
Attorney, yes. I love the idea. Somebody said inspector
Mhm.
because doing a pre-listing inspection isn't the worst thing, is it?
No.
No.
How about warranty companies?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you were going to go buy a house and there was a warranty on it, right? Wouldn't that relieve some of your stress?
Yes.
I agree. I guess I agree because I said it.
You also have to be in communication with the buyer's agent.
Co-broke.
Go broke. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Anybody else?
The title company.
Title company, yes. Here in Pennsylvania, that'd be the conveyancing. What if you were going to do some repairs, whether that's, and let's talk about all contractors, meaning,
Contractor.
yeah, so you got the contractor that's going to, fix certain things that you don't want to come up in the inspection. You have a landscaper that may do some of the things. You may have a painter, all those people that are going to beautify the home, your stager, right? We got a lot of people that are going to help us in this process, right? Because we want to get the most for the home. If that makes sense.
And constantly reminding them what date they have to have everything done, and don't choose the closing date. Choose a couple of days before the closing.
Okay.
Don't
Yep.
wait till the last minute.
Yeah, don't allow folks to wait till the last minute. Awesome. Any questions around this or anything that we missed?
Photographer and videographer.
Now we're talking, right? Because we gotta get that thing on the market, yeah? Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, is there anything that we missed?
Staging.
Staging?
We have already put the stager.
Okay.
Mhm.
You put it again.
The appraiser, did we?
Yep, we got the appraiser on there. And that was a very good point. Now, all these people have timelines that they need to be on, right? Because we talked about that timeline to start, right? So when all those folks on timeline so that they understand when and where things have to be done in order to make sure that we get to the closing or the settlement. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. How do we feel about moving on? Okay. Here's the thing. You guys just did the thing that we're about to go right now. You did a great job with this, right? Because we're going to communicate deadlines. We're going to communicate the contract to all the parties. Lender and buyer are going to communicate. We're going to communicate a list of all recommended title companies, inspectors, and insurance agents. We're going to schedule and communicate with inspectors and listing agents. We're going to make sure we're sending addendums, amendments, or any changes to the contracts with the inspection report to the other side in the title and lending. Some of the other questions that you might ask are, when am I reminding the buyers to make big purchases, to not make big purchases?
From the
That's
beginning.
part of that conversation. If you've ever had a client that decided to buy a Harley 10 days before they're closing, you'll never forget it. I'll never forget it. That happened to me because, I needed something to put in the garage of my new house. And that kind of messed up our ability to buy the house. So that was fun.
Don't buy a washer and dryer until
Right.
you're in the house.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? Don't get taken to the cleaners, right? Okay. Am I communicating notices of any holidays that may delay the process? One of the things else I'm going to ask is, how do I negotiate the inspection report? And when am I communicating this information? My understanding is it's always sooner the better. And when do I touch base with the lender, title company, or listing agent? Once again, typically sooner better, clearer the better, right? Is this helpful?
It is.
Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate when you validate that it's helpful, right? Because I'll tell you guys something, and this is on a recorded line, so I don't mind saying it. I want to be here, right? I had a long day. We had Bold today in my region, my market center, and it's been a long day, and I really want to be here. And I get really excited to be here when the people on the call want to be here with me. So I appreciate you guys playing all in and participating. So thank you.
No problem.
All right, we're gonna move on. Now those are the questions that we went over were for the buyers. Now we have some for the sellers. And the first thing might be, what is the first thing my seller needs? Right? What was the first thing my seller needs? What do the sellers need to know and do? What do I need to do? And what do I need to know? What does the rest of the team, whether that's a co-op agent, the inspectors, or the lenders, need to know, take action on, and when? And what am I doing at each point to bulletproof the transaction and set myself and my seller up for a successful close? All right, folks, we've gone through a good deal of this. Can I ask for ahas?
Sorry, that was a very long question. Can you break it down in parts, please?
Okay. I'm going to go through it step by step. You ready for it?
Yes, sir.
Can you see it on the screen?
Yes.
All right. So number one, what is the first thing my seller needs? That's a question we're going to ask. Number two, what do the sellers need to know and what do they need to do? Number three, what do I need to know and what do I need to do? Number four, what does the rest of the team, and that's the co-op agent on the other side, the inspectors, and the lenders, need to know, take action on, and by when? Number six. What am I doing at each point to bulletproof the transaction and set myself and my seller up for a successful close? The answer to all of these things lies in communication, right? Seek first to understand. Awesome. What were your ahas so far? What was something that you took from this that you said, oh, well, that was good to know?
I think Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, thank you. Don't make a big purchase before the closing.
That's a good one. That's a good one. As long as you remember it, your clients will too.
As a matter of fact, don't obtain any line of credit or anything. Don't run your credit. I'd say 30 days before the closing.
Love that. Thank you.
Thank you.
For me, like just overall having the checklist of this is what I need, this is who I need to communicate with or have like on a line of communication with so that I know exactly what steps I need to take to go forward in the transaction. Like, because having it in your mind is one thing, but having a piece of paper that says boom, 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 for me, that's really helpful. It's like, oh, okay, it's clear.
Right. So,
Yeah.
Shauna, you're absolutely right, because here's the thing about keeping in your head. You know what else is in your head? Your grocery list, and
Everything else.
you know what I mean, your laundry time, and your kids, this, that, and the other. There's a whole bunch of other timelines that are happening at the same time in your head. When you put those things in writing, you put them in a place where you can see them, it creates clarity and it compartmentalizes that thing to be important in its space. So yes, absolutely, Shani. I'm glad that you pulled that. Linda, please.
Thank you. I think the biggest nugget I just got was to plan and train myself to mitigate the risk throughout the transaction and to manage it as well.
I love that. I love that. Can I put you on the spot for 1 second?
Sure.
What's an example? What might be an example of that?
Reaching out to the lender and understanding the situation.
Yes.
And probability of being able to successfully close a transaction with that lender.
Yes. One of the things that gets us into the most trouble is the inability to say the following. I do not know, but I will find out. It could save your business. It's okay not to know every answer, right? So staying in communication when you don't know the answer and find the answer it could very well save the deal. So yes, Linda, you are dead on with that. Anybody else? Any other ahas? Understanding that something that you share may be helping someone else that didn't catch it. Sharon, please.
I would like to just bring up communication is so important. We've mentioned all the different parties, but the agent, if you're representing the buyer and if the seller's agent is not upfront with you at the very beginning, you've got to make sure that everything is understood. I got to a closing once. We had some difficulties and I was representing them. Military couple that were moving from one location to another location, and where they bought their house, we had run into numerous issues with the seller's agent. And so when it came time to close, the sellers, of course, closed their documents first. And so I called the title company. I said, do you have everything that you need? And they said, only one of the sellers has signed the documents. I thought that was curious. So I went ahead and let my buyers do their closing. And I contacted the agent to let her know that the buyers had signed their documents. And I said, now, did all the sellers sign their documents? No. One of the sellers was in a different town. Obviously, I knew from the very beginning, one of the sellers was not in agreement with selling the house. So when you run into that, you've got to really keep open communication with that agent. She got so she would ignore my phone calls. That wasn't a good thing.
I can only imagine that. Yeah. So,
but finally, the gentleman got out of his meeting and he said, I'm not to sign this document until 5 o'clock tonight. So I'll sign it at 5 o'clock. And he did. He signed it at 5 o'clock. So we did manage to close. But that is one situation I hope I never run into again, but it can happen.
it can happen. And, we're all better now that we learned that, that could happen. So thank you for sharing. So one of the things that you just brought, Linda brought up so nicely was the idea of that risk avoidance, and so did Sharon. And I just want you to look at the screen here where we talk about number one being communicating clearly and often with everyone involved in that step of the transaction. Number two, set expectations up front. It is a very hard thing to do, right? We're so excited about getting this deal done. We don't want to say anything that may ruin the opportunity to get this deal to the table. We have to, right? There's a gentleman in my office, he's been in the business for 41 years, and what he'll tell all of his clients, I'd rather disappoint you early than disappoint you late. Right? I'd rather say the things that may be, uncomfortable or, alarming up front versus midway through the deal, right? When we're trying to get things to the closing table. And lastly, maintain your professionalism throughout, right? Your reputation is earned in drips and lost in buckets. Keep your professionalism throughout. We get upset with our clients. We get upset with our co-brokes. We get upset with people inside the transaction. Take 10 seconds to yourself and regroup when necessary. Is that helpful?
But when you're dealing with your client and things like what happened to me, I've gotten several referrals from the couple who were moving that were my clients because of being persistent and staying on top of everything. They did appreciate that.
I love that. I love that. So a couple of questions, right? And because we want to avoid the risk, but we want to make sure that we're aware of where it happens. So let me ask this question, and this is for everyone. Where is a deal at risk of falling apart?
At any time.
What was that question? What was that answer?
At any time.
Miriam, you are absolutely correct. What are some of the things that may be the reasons why that would happen?
It can be.
Jaleesa, is that Jaleesa?
Yes, I was going to say, not being able to get the loan.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What else?
Even the communication.
Repair is not done on the property that was supposed to be done.
Correct. Correct. Yep.
Unexpected cash from client.
Yes. Right. And I mean, so what are the best practice? Go ahead, Teresa.
Oh, I was just gonna say, so I had got my license a long time ago and I originally got it in Connecticut. And my first listing was with these two sisters, and you have to have compassion because the deal almost fell through. One of the sisters, we were selling the parents' house and she didn't want to give up the house. So she was trying to back out, but it was already agreed upon. So it was, I had to kind of, the communication is really important, but working with them too was, was really an interesting time because it was my first one. So, but everything worked out really well. So it went good. You just had to have compassion and understand the other side because, she wasn't willing to give up that house yet. And she was, she was just, trying to hold on to it. But when I went to go talk with her and everything, and explained everything and this and that, she was fine. So everything worked out good. And we went to the closing table and they both talked very highly of me and they were very happy. And it was my first listing ever. So I was very happy with that. And that was a long time ago. So
yeah, please. In the case like this, what can you say to the other sister or brother who does not want to sell?
So I think one of the things that I would do, and this is what I do in most things, all things, is I want to revisit the motivation, right? There's a reason why the home needs to be sold.
Yes.
Right? Before I even sign paperwork, I want to make certain that everybody that's the decision maker has sat down with me and explained to me why the house is being sold, right? And prior to putting a house on the market, I want to make sure that everybody's moving towards that same motivation. Right? And if at some point we get down the road in the transaction and someone says, yeah, I don't want to do this anymore, I come back to that conversation. I might say, Marie Claire, I know that you, myself, and Miriam sat down 3 weeks ago. And when we did, you let me know that we had to sell this property because we couldn't afford it. I remember looking at your taxes and seeing what that what was causing, or what that was costing you. I remember you telling me this. Has something changed? Right? That's me coming from curiosity. Has something changed that you now want to keep the property? Or would you like to move on as we
Yeah,
discuss?
something changed. Something changed.
Okay. So
Yeah.
what has changed in so that you no longer need to sell this property?
I just realized that everything I knew as a child is going, and this is it. It's ending. I don't feel any connection anymore to my parents, to my family, to my growing up, to every memory I've ever had.
Teresa, I 100% have tied on to memories as well. What I know about memories are, as long as I don't sustain some brain injury or I come up with something, those memories are mine. And one of the things I can do to honor those memories is not allow them to be attached to something that is bringing me pain. And what you've told me prior to this is that the pain of having a payment that is not really in the best interest of you and your family today is getting in the way of your livelihood. I can
Yes.
understand the memories, but
All right.
I can't let you ruin your future. Does that make sense?
Very much sense. Thank you.
And then it does.
But what's also interesting is that realtors have to realize that sometimes there's a lot of hand-holding that needs to be done in a transaction, particularly when you're dealing with the older adult. You also, and last year as an example of that, I was working with a couple that they were moving because she was concerned that she wasn't going to be able to take care of her husband properly, and they were moving to a senior community. But they didn't, supposedly one daughter had her ideas about something and none of that was communicated. And so when she came in, wow, it was like she didn't bring an airplane to Kansas City. She brought a witch's broom on the way from Colorado into Kansas City. It was a mess. So you have to think about all parties, not only maybe that are immediate, but also the children who maybe live in another state could come in and disrupt things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So here's the other piece of that, right? What are the best practices for keeping the deal alive?
Staying on top of it.
Being on top of it.
Communication.
Susan, I'm a great call. Meyer. That's yes, communication. Susan, I want to ask you, being on top of it, what does that mean to you?
Well, recently, my nephew passed away about 6 years ago.
Sorry for your
Thank you.
loss.
He was 36 years old and had esophageal cancer. He owned a home and his parents were co-owners of it. And my nephew's wife she left it. She just bought a new house and just didn't go back. And so then my sister-in-law decided they needed to sell it. And because it was becoming a burden on her and her husband. And so we ended up, I ended up having to sit down with my niece and tell her, this is what we need to do. She knew it, but it took a lot of convincing to get her to put it on the market and sell it, which we did. And she was thankful that we did afterwards. because her father-in-law passed away from the same cancer that my nephew passed away from. So it was a hard decision, but it was a good one.
I 100% understand that scenario, and I'm glad that things worked out in a really tough time. Thank you for sharing that. Jen Allen.
Hi, sorry, I wasn't ready for that. So to avoid the issues with the communication part, I think it's just you need to always be one step ahead of your client and setting expectations ahead of time rather than dealing with the aftermath.
I love that. One of the things, thank you, Jen. One of the things that I really struggled with early on in my career was I would get bad news and I would sit on it. Right? So now it's 2-3 days that, I'm trying to fix a problem that I didn't create, one, and two, I'm better off if I let my folks know. And I had a coach that told me, how long are you going to sit with that prior to sharing it with the people that need to know? Because all it did was eat me up. And when I couldn't find a solution, it ate me up even more. So one of the things I would say is communicating quickly and effectively about any issue that pops up. We all in agreement with that?
Yes.
And in doing
Yes.
that, you become the fiduciary, right? You're the person that's taking care of your folks versus, putting them in at some risk. Because if everything's on a timeline, there may not be days to waste. Fair?
Fair.
One of the things I want to share with you guys as well is make sure that you're documenting communication. Because although you are on the same side as your client, God forbid, it becomes your word against theirs. You want to make sure that you're keeping appropriate documentation. All right. Here's the thing. And when you do all those things really, really well, you know what happens? You earn the right to ask for referrals. You earn the right to ask for reviews. And you earn the right to have repeat business. And that's what this thing is about. I talked to so many agents that have been in this game for 5, 10, 15, 20 plus years, and they say, oh, my business is all referral now. And it's due to doing the right thing and earning the right to have people send reviews, send referrals, and send repeat business. All right. So one of the things that I coach some folks here in my market center, and they always have this really tough time with this piece of it. And I want you guys not to get into this mindset of, I don't want to bother anybody by asking for referrals. And I'll tell you what happens oftentimes is that you're under the impression that the happiest time in the transaction is going to be at the closing table. It is one of the happiest times in the transaction. Can you guys name for me some other happy times in the transaction?
When the contract is accepted.
Accepted contract.
When the client likes the house.
The client likes the house. What else?
But when they fall in love with it, more like it.
I'm sorry, Shani, then Teresa.
When the loan's approved?
The loan's approved. Teresa Io.
Yeah, I was saying when they fall in love with it, more like it.
Okay, when they fall in love with it.
Clear to close.
Clear to close. Mateo.
That's what it is. CTC, when you got
it. All right. So let's just go quickly through.
When also the inspection came up clean.
Clear inspection, yes. Or negotiated inspection, yes. So what might that look like? What might that asking for a referral look like?
You see how we've done it with your situation? I can repeat it with your friends and put the smile on their faces too.
I love that. That's a wonderful notion. Yes, I love it. Sharon, you have to come off mute.
Yeah, here we go. Now, can you hear me?
I got you.
Okay. I had a client that I worked with for 2 years, and she finally found a house that she liked in an area that she liked. I also had a situation, she was a widow, and she went to a class reunion and got reacquainted with someone she had dated then, and he wasn't happy with where she'd been looking for a house, so we changed counties and wound up in an area that she wound up liking really well. But at her closing, she brought the lender boutonniere. She brought me flowers. She brought the title company flowers. She was just so excited. And yes, I do get referrals from her.
I love that. I love that. So I'm going to give you guys a secret sauce here, right? And if you say it any other way than the way that I'm saying it, I can't guarantee the results. If you say it the way I'm saying it, I can guarantee the results when you say it enough. I heard everybody ask for referrals in a different way, but this is how I would do it. Ready? Write this down, please. Who do you know that I can help in buying or selling real estate? Who do you know? We're not going to say, if you know anybody, or please think of me. Do we understand the difference there? What did your brain do when I said, who do you know?
Start thinking about who do I know.
A list of people came to your mind, right? Mm-hmm. But when I gave you that out of if you hear somebody thinking about real estate, please give them my name or number, right? Susan, it's not your job to do my job, correct? So while I have you right now, who do you know, right? Because here's the thing, folks. At this time right now, you're in the transaction with them. All that they've been doing is telling every single person they know that they're buying a house. That's what the conversation's around. So that's what I would say. I don't want to belabor this point because I want to get you guys out of here on time. But was that helpful?
Yes.
No,
Yes.
that one is very good one. Yeah, very
That's
good
good.
one.
Thanks for sharing.
You are more than welcome. All right. Now we're going to move, because we asked for referrals. We asked for referrals throughout the process. Yes. All those times that I just heard you guys tell me were good times to ask. We asked for those names. And you know what? You know why most of our folks get upset? I'm going back to this point, even though I said I wasn't going to belabor it. A reason why we get in our own way around this is because we don't know our own value. Let me ask you a question. If you're walking down the street and you found a wallet that was on the street, and the ID was there, and it had credit cards in there, and it had maybe even a social security card, and had money in it, cash money in it, right? How many people would find that person to return that to?
Most people.
If I don't see every hand up, I'm making pretend that I do.
Most people, no, most people will definitely bring it back. Self-included.
Okay, right? You know why you do that? Because you have something of value that belongs to someone. Your services is something of value that can be given to someone. So if we can get around the idea of thinking that we have to beg people for business, because when we beg people for business, we're getting commissions, more along the lines of we're helping people attain what could be the biggest purchase of their life, it changes the narrative, right or wrong. All right, we're going to move on. We're going to move on. All right, so now we've settled, everything is great. We're going to do what's called the post-close follow-up. Anybody do a post-close follow-up So basically you're telling me you sell the property to the client and then you never talk to them again?
I contact him various times throughout the years afterwards. It's interesting. A couple that I helped 22 years ago, several years ago, called me up because they needed to buy a different property because their parents had joined them in their house, and they had a 2-story house. Her mother went to the doctor and he had said that she needed knee surgery. She came home and told her daughter, call Sharon, tell her we need a ranch. Well, that was like pulling a rabbit out of a hat. But I did find him a property that did work.
Sharon, I love that. And I'm going to tell you something. You are fortunate because not everybody gets that call. Jen Allen, I'll be with you 1 second. I just want to hammer this point in. Those things happen in those people's lives, and you found out of that, Sharon, when they called you, correct?
Yes.
Here's how I can't guarantee, but I can assure that won't have to be the case. It's when we stay in touch with our folks, right? When we make those what we call care calls to see how things are going, we know what's going on, and that information often gets leaked through, right? Because when you look for opportunity, you'll find it. And we're not being opportunistic in the way that is a vulture or somebody that's being predatory, but we're listening for opportunities to help. So when I'm having a conversation with someone and they tell me that, mom is, not going to be able to stay in her own place for a while because she can't climb the stairs anymore, automatically my brain goes to either mom has to sell that place, mom may have to move into assisted living or 55 and older or something like that. Mom might be moving in with daughter, so forth and so on, right? There's opportunity there to help. Jen Allen, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that on closing day, I put in my calendar to do a follow-up 1 month out just to see how everything's going. Make sure they're liking the house, if they need help with anything. And I do have like my scheduled touches various ways throughout the year, but it's just a little way of letting them know that I haven't fallen off the map once I got paid, basically. That I do care about them.
I love that. Around here, we call it a 36 touch program, right? So let me just go through that really quickly for you. And I've jumped off of what I'm supposed to be teaching you, and I'm giving you hints and guidelines. So bear with me for a second. 36 touch program is something that if you talk to your client, if you talk to every single client in your database, right, 4 times a year, once a quarter, that's just a conversation, preferably on the phone, right? And then if you were to send out what we call a bi-monthly neighborhood nurture, which you can find in Command, right? In the smart plans in Command, that goes out, that's, if my math is correct, 26 times, right? Every 2 weeks, 26. We are already up to 30 touches. We can add in text messages, we can add in birthday cards, holiday cards, right? Client events. What do we call home anniversaries, right? If you see that on Facebook or on some other social media platform, they're having problems with something, you're reaching out to them to get them a contractor. It'd be better if they knew that they should call you to find the right contractor because you have the referral network of those folks. Yes. Those are some of the ways we follow with the buyers, and you know what? And the sellers. Right? One of the things that I recently figured out, probably too late in my selling career, was that if a buyer's agent sold a property on my listing in my neighborhood where I typically do most of my business, and that buyer's agent was from an area that was not necessarily familiar with, right? I'm in the suburbs of Philadelphia. And if an agent from Philadelphia, who typically does their business in Philadelphia proper comes and sells a house out here in the suburbs, I'm going to guess that they're not farming that area. Right? So I would imagine that it's the best thing for me. I'm not trying to poach anybody's clients, but I want to make sure that I'm keeping up with the folks that are buying and selling homes in my area, is to stay in touch with the person of that buyer that just bought my listing. They can get a holiday card, yeah. There's no harm in that. They may not work with me. They may, though, want to know what their home is worth, and me putting out a neighborhood nurture may help in that. So that, if their buyer's agent wasn't, on top of it and doing the communication of the 36 touch the way I am, they may reach out to me when it's time to sell that property in my backyard. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Linda LeBlanc.
So I'm trying to make sure I understand you. So if you're the listing agent and you close a transaction with the buyer's agent and their client, you put their client's information in your database?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Once the closing happens, they are no longer a client.
That just became somebody that's my neighbor or somebody lives in my area, right?
Yeah.
I'm not trying to poach a client. I am trying to inform the public, and I want to be seen as economic or the economist of choice, right? Knowing what's going on in my local area. If your sister is a person that sold you that house, that's going to be your realtor, right? Until you guys get in a fight. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, so that's what that would look like.
But I also tell my clients that I'm your realtor for life.
I love
And
that.
when I send them out a Christmas card or it's springtime, I always sign it. Your
Sharon,
realtor for life.
Sharon, let me ask you this question. And I love that. I love that saying. What if you told them that you were going to be their asset manager for life?
Oh, different
Because
approach.
that home is an asset, yes?
Yes.
And it's going to appreciate, God forbid it depreciates, but you're going to be the person that manages what that looks like, right?
Right.
And I would say I'm your realtor for life, understanding that I am this asset manager for life as well. And when you see my neighborhood nurture come along every 2 weeks, that's me doing due diligence for you. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions around the information that I'm sending you. I know that I'll be in touch with you at least 4 times this year, at minimum 4 times this year. By phone.
Yeah. I had one in Canada that even sent us it was this young man that he was, when he was selling us a house, he just got married. And then we became like a family because even the picture of the kid, he's going to send it to us. And every time we just together, and then we just keep referring him many friends that did at the house and all this.
I love that. I love it. So what would be the benefits of continuing and strengthening relationships with your co-agents?
Trust relationships.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm going to say something else too. When you do a great job with your co-agents or your co-ops, and you plan on selling more houses, Callie, I'll be right with you, I'm sorry. And you plan on selling more houses, somewhere down the line, those folks are going to either list a house or bring you a buyer on the house that you have listed. And when it works out well, when it's apples to apples and it's the right thing for your client, who would you rather work with? Who would they rather work with? Here's the other piece of that. We work for Keller Williams. We have a little thing here called profit share, right? When you do the right thing and Keller Williams is the right choice for the person that you're talking to, and you bring that person into your downline and they do a great job and your market center is profitable, you get to share in those profits and help people. Callie, go ahead.
I was also gonna say about building rapport and relationships with co-agents. I know in Kansas you can't be a dual agent, so if you are in that situation, you have to give one of those properties to somebody else. So you want to have people who believe in you and trust you, that you will do a good job for them because it's their reputation if they are giving your name.
I love that. I love that, right? It's, you know, it's helping one another and it's doing so based on your reputation. Love that guy. That's awesome. What are some ideas for staying in touch with those folks? What would be a good way to stay in touch with co-op agents?
Take them to coffee or breakfast or something.
All right.
Invite them to an event that might be beneficial to them.
Love that. Jen Allen, I love how you raise your hand. Feel free to just speak out. If you so choose.
Yeah, so I was gonna say the coffee thing, and then also I keep track of all the agents and lenders and lawyers and everybody that I work with on every transaction, and I include them when I send out my holiday cards. And I specifically reference the transaction we had and what the experience was like.
I love that. I'm going to tell you what, here's to your point, and then I'll say something else, and I'm going to write down so I don't forget. People leave the business, don't they? What would happen if that person calls you every time somebody calls them after they left the business? Or people go into referral status? What would have happened if that person decided to send you all those folks? Would that not be a great thing for you? Here's the other way that you can stay in touch with those folks. Keller Williams is a training and consulting company. That means inside of your market center, at some point in time, you guys are having classes. Would it make sense to invite that person to a class so that they can be a strong agent just as you? I'm gonna tell you, please.
You're saying that we can invite non-Keller Williams agents to.
Let me say this first. Because especially on a recorded line, speak to your team leader to make certain that the training that you want to invite them to is open to folks that are not inside the company. But I would imagine if you were able to do that, your team leader would be very happy with you bringing people into the training center and your market center in order to learn what we're doing.
Gotcha.
Right?
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely. What are our ahas from any of this?
That's a big one. That you can invite somebody to a class. If it's doable, that would be a very, very good invitation, because it says that it says a lot about you, that you are not just you are really a friendly guy. You are really a very good person, you know, that you are giving them something that they can use for free.
Love that. Love it. It's actually, it's an amazing answer. Anybody else?
So when you invite other people to your team meeting or to any of your events at your office, if you're making them better, so if they're a different agent from a different company and you're just raising people up, and that says a lot about you, about that you want people to be better. If they're better, then you're better, because then you're doing, transactions with great agents. And if they're being subpar and you're trying to teach them, it just helps out that way.
Christine, I love that. And one of the things that I often say to folks when I'm calling them, I'll say, I'd love for you to come to this training. As a steward of the industry, I want to make certain that everyone is privy to this outstanding material that we have here. Right? Absolutely. Absolutely.
By
Anybody
doing
else?
by doing so also, the person will think that uh, he or she is not just the number that help you to go through your transaction. You really think of the evolution. I don't know if it is the word. You will excuse me here. You want them to be better.
Absolutely. And here's the thing, Marie Claire, is it is easier to help somebody in a classroom than in a transaction. If we're supposed to be on the opposite sides of this thing and I'm helping you out, right? And I continuously help you out. At what point is that line crossed where I'm helping you out and not working in the best interest of my client? So invite them to the trainings. Yes. Any other ahas? All right, we spent an hour and 22 minutes together. Actually, let's say an hour 27 minutes together so far. Some of you jumped on at that 5 minutes of mark and have been with me since. What have you learned all day? Rosie, I know you learned a lot, so we're not going to ask you. All
Do you
right, so
know
let's,
anybody else who I can offer my services to?
one more time. Say it the way that I said it.
Do you know anybody? Who do you know that I can sell or buy for?
That's it. Who do you know?
That
Who
I can sell.
know,
No,
right?
no. Who do
No,
you know that
no,
I
no.
can help to buy or sell the house?
It's who
Help.
I can help,
Yeah.
Right?
who I can
You
help.
know that I can help purchase or sell a property in the 9 months. What I want you to really concentrate on is that first part. Who do you know?
That was great.
Yes, yes.
Super.
Okay. How do you guys feel?
Very good.
Let me ask
Confident?
you, I'm sorry, let me ask a better question. How do you feel about the part where we talked about the timeline and setting up the timeline and making it visual?
Yes, I wanted to say it because I think it was Ruth who said it, Sharon, that to have a boat where you can put the sticker of what is going to go on for you to get that deal sealed.
Absolutely.
And
Marie Claire, I'm sorry, go ahead.
and it's very good because keeping in mind is difficult to deal with it.
Here's the thing. All of you are going to be successful. And when you have 4, 5, 6, 10 deals going at the same time, it is very hard to keep those things on track because every single thing that's going on may be on a different date. Right? Yeah. Matthew.
Hi, I was wondering, when someone does say yes, when you ask who they know that can help, do you ask them to give them their friend's number, or do you ask to have them pass your number and information along?
Matthew, you just asked the best question. If there was gold stars being given out on this call, you just received it. I mean, between you and our birthday boy for tomorrow, you guys are the guests of the show and love everybody else that participated. But let's get into that. Matthew, would you be willing to role play with me right now?
Sure.
All right. Matthew, who do you know that I can help purchase or sell a home in the next 3, 6, or 9 months?
I actually have a cousin that's looking for a house soon.
Oh, really? Hey, Matthew, let me ask you this question. One, what's your cousin's name?
Valerie.
All right. So Valerie, where does she live?
She lives in Providence.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I can most certainly help Valerie sell her property or to help her in the purchase of her property in Providence. Hey, here's the thing. The one way that I know that I can help her and that we can be in relationship in order to do so is if you would do the following. Would you mind sending a group text introducing me to Valerie and letting her know that I'm willing to help?
Yeah, I can do that for you.
Awesome. Matthew, can I ask you, who else do you know that's looking that I can help buy or sell?
Let's see. I have a neighbor that I think is downsizing soon.
Oh my gosh. And they're a neighbor of yours. So, I mean, they must be pretty good people. So how about this? Would you mind, as well as Valerie, putting me in a group text with that person in a separate thread?
Okay. Yeah.
Awesome. This is so
that up.
helpful. This is so helpful. I spend 2 to 3 hours a day doing what's called lead generation to find new business, and you just saved me hours. Matthew, I'm gonna, I mean, if you don't start asking, or you stop asking, you stop getting answers. So who else do you know?
I think that's about all of them.
Okay, awesome. And I really appreciate if you would send me a text message with those folks on that thread so that I can get to know them. And what that does, Matthew, just so you understand why I'm asking you to do so, is it provides validity for me in that call. And the other thing that I know is that if your cousin doesn't respond, I can respond to you on the other side and just say, hey, Matthew, didn't hear from Valerie inside of our group text. Is everything okay there? Or would you feel comfortable with me following up in that group text? Is that fair?
Yeah. So when they set up the group text, do you not say anything until the other
Oh,
person
I
responds?
certainly do. So this is how that group text looks. Matthew, you're going to send that group text. You're going to say, hey, Valerie, this is Floyd. He's the realtor that I've used. I've told him about you and the fact that you might be selling your house, ... Right. And sometimes what you want to do is send the text to the person separately that you want to send for them to send in the group text. Right. That's a 300 level, doing this at a 300 level. But you're going to send that text. And as soon as you send that text and I get that text, I'm going to say, hi, Valerie, I'm so appreciative that, excuse me. Hi, Valerie. It's nice to meet you. Matthew, thank you so much for making this introduction. I will make sure that I take care of Valerie if she's in her search for this property. Right? And if Valerie doesn't say anything, then I text Matthew back on the side and say, Matthew, once again, I haven't heard anything inside of that. Would it be okay if I sent another text? Have you heard from Valerie outside of our group text? Right? And I'm asking that. Right? Because that thread keeps us all very true to the conversation.
And how quickly do you move out of that group thread? Because I kind of assume you don't want
as quickly as possible. As quickly as possible. When Valerie writes back and says, "Oh my gosh, it's a pleasure to meet you," I say, "Okay, great. Will be a great time for us to speak." Because now I want all what's going on. I don't want to keep with the group text. I want to hear my voice, even though I don't love my voice. I know that she'll be able to hear how passionate I am about helping her.
And was that text in the group text first, or was that after?
Absolutely. Yep. That's in the group text. Won't be a great time to call you. Because I'm moving it from the group text in a phone call.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I see some hands up. Matthew, did I answer all your questions?
Yes.
Awesome. Teresa and then Linda. Linda, then Teresa. Linda LeBlanc.
Okay. In one of the previous classes, our teacher told us that they like to probe 2 or 3 levels. So when you did the role play and he said he had a cousin named Valerie and that was the only person he knew, it just clicked in my head to say, okay, well, other people that may be interested in buying a home, or people who are getting ready to get married or having a baby, or who are renting and currently thinking about moving up. So I just wanted to put that out there because that was a nugget I had from a prior class.
Absolutely. You do want to go 3 deep. The reason I didn't go 3 deep, one is because for the time and sake of this call, right? Because I would get typically deeper into it to learn more about that person. And I want to get to the list of people, right? If he starts talking about Linda and tells me a story about for 10 minutes about Linda and how she skinned her knee when they were kids and da 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 da, right? We may not have enough time to get to the next 3 or 4 people that he may have in mind. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. But I love the idea of what we call drilling down to learn more. Yes, yes, always. Teresa and then Chris.
Can you hear me?
Got you.
Okay, sorry, I was on mute. No, I was just gonna ask if you can, in that text message, would you just go ahead and ask for that email address? If you couldn't, you know, let's say you tried to call or whatever, but would you also try to get the email address as well?
From
Valerie.
From Valerie?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't see why not, right? Valerie, is there an email that would be best for me to reach you at, right? But I really want to talk on the phone, right? Because that's where I'm going to learn the most in hearing that and her hearing my passion. But if I can get an email address, if I can't get a phone call, yes.
Okay, thanks.
Yep, yep. Chris.
So I go for reciprocity after Matthew gives me the lead or whatever. I'll say, Matthew, how can I help you in your business? Like say whatever Matthew is, or, you know, I want to be there for you because I feel like it's such a nice gift. The reciprocity is, you know, so it just keeps on fueling in.
I love that. It might, for me, that might sound something like, hey, and Matthew, you know that if you ever are looking for people to in your business or whatever his line of business is, if you're ever looking for those folks, I would gladly send them your way, right? The people that I know of right now are ... who could use your services, right? Yeah, absolutely. Great point. Great point. All right. So I want to get you guys out of here on time. I know we have time left over, but I'm not going to hold you the entire time. Is that okay? Okay. How do you feel about what we talked about? Any ahas, or what are our feelings about when we talked about best practices to avoid the risk of the deal falling apart? What were our thoughts there?
Try to call everyone involved in the deal. The title company, the lender, the seller agent. As many people you can call. So the key is the communication.
The key is the communication. You're absolutely right. The key is the communication.
I like the part of documenting communication.
Yes.
Try to keep organized because we're gonna talk to a lot of people.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Yes. Okay. And then I think we kind of hammered home the idea of asking for business afterwards, right? How do we feel about that? Or what are our thoughts, I should ask?
I personally am not a group chat person, but I feel like translating that to social media would be helpful for me. So thanks for that. It gave me ideas.
Okay. The reason I just want to make sure that the communication is not just a two-way communication. I want to make it a three-way conversation, because although Matthew trusts me, Valerie may not, because she doesn't know me, right? So I want to create that validity inside of that conversation and keep everybody true to it. So yes, if that means if you're doing that inside of a social media setting, right? If it's on Messenger or whatever way you choose to communicate it, allow for that person to be the bridge for you, right? Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Anybody else? All right. So what I'd ask you to do is the following. Just let me ask you a question first. What action are you going to take from what you got today moving forward? Whether it's working with past buyers, future sellers, previous sellers, co-op agents, what action can you take today?
I'm definitely gonna start writing down like the people I need to contact. That was like the main takeaway for today for me. Who all needs to be contacted within a transaction. That was the most helpful for me. So thanks.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Another thing that is the follow-up after 3 months, after a month. So follow-up.
Love that. Follow up. You know what they say around here? The fortune is in the follow-up. 80% of our business comes from follow-up. So Carlene, please.
I'm about to have my first closing, so I appreciated the point on referrals, and I liked how you demonstrated how it can be done. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Referrals and follow-up, referrals and follow-up. Yes, yes, yes.
So when,
I'm Mateo, please, go ahead.
right, when you discussed earlier on things to consider and the steps and all that, I am thinking in my head that this would be a good place to develop like a checklist so that as soon as you drop the contract, you know what is the next thing and you are looking through timeline, checklist type of that, what is next, what is next, what is you doing and following up all those steps throughout the transaction.
I apologize. I'm going to give you a little hint. Someone's already done it for you.
Wonderful.
It should be inside of your command. If it's not inside of command, right, send a text message or an email to your team leader or someone in your leadership to say, where do I find the buyer's checklist? Where do I find the seller's checklist? It's already done. Please do not reinvent the wheel when you don't need to. And here's the thing that if they can't find it, what you can do is go on to either ChatGPT or Claude AI and say, please show me a Keller Williams checklist for the state of where you live. And I'd be more than certain that you'll find something. And when you find something, share that with your team leader or someone in leadership and ask them, is this appropriate? And if there's anything I need to add or change. Right?
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And input those checklists into that opportunity inside of command, and that will be so much easier for you to move through the process and not miss anything. Great. You guys, I can't thank you enough. After this day that I've had, you guys have been an amazing group, an amazing, amazing group. So I appreciate you guys all doing all those things. Let's move to the daily success list or system. I'm going to pull that up. Got your ahas going. Are you guys using this? Please tell me you are.
What?
Who's using it? If one person tells me they're using it and is not lying, we can move forward. Callie, how are you going to use it for this?
Well, today I put 10 handwritten notes in the mail to people. But we had a snow day today, so I've not had any genuine conversations with anybody besides children. But I am focusing on my social media engagement, and I have had a lot more success just telling, like, they say, what are you doing this weekend? And I say, well, I just got my real estate license, so I'm really focusing on that with my time. And I've gotten 3 leads just off of saying it casually. I expected it to be a little bit harder than that. It will be hard. I'm not saying it's not, but the
It
conversations
doesn't
are
have to
really
be
natural.
hard. It doesn't have to be hard.
It doesn't have to be hard, but it can be.
It can be, yes, but just take the soft ones. Take the soft lines.
I love that. Great advice. Anyone else? I'm gonna ask, what's different in this one that you've seen than you've seen in the others? If you may be on mute, I don't hear you.
Enrichments.
Yes.
Can you elaborate on that? Enrichments?
So the way that I understand that is, those are things that are your choice, and they may be things of value, items of value, right? So an item of value might be something like showing someone what their house is worth, right? A CMA, right? That may be an enrichment. Yeah. Yeah. Good question. So a couple of things that are different are the appointments and the agreements and the closings, right? I'm not sure that you necessarily saw that everywhere else. You guys have this, the conversation sheets? Are you filling it out? I promise you, if you do this every day, your business will look a lot different in 90 days. I promise you that. For 18 years, I worked with young kids, and I know what a promise is worth, because when you promise young kids things, they come and ask for it. So anytime you hear me say I promise something, it's because I truly know that I believe in it. All right, folks, that's all I have. Is there anything that we need to go over, come back to?
As I say, I'm a new kid in the block. Please, where can I go to find all this information that we had this evening? I'm still struggling with all my hook up, the comment, this, that. So
Marie Claire, do you have a productivity coach in your market center?
Yes, but unfortunately, I started only on Monday, and then they are locked up with the snow and all this. So
What I tell you
yeah.
to do. I do not want to steer you wrong, okay? And I do not want to get in the way of the process that your market center has. So I would beg you to reach out to the productivity coach or your director of agent services, and they can direct you as to where to go for all of this. Right? Because if I try to do it right now, two things will happen. I'll mess you up because I don't use it. No way. I have leverage around those things. And two, we'd be on the call for a lot longer than I have available tonight.
Okay, that's good. I will. But there, I had one that is in the marketing that is started helping me today. I hope things will be okay, because it's too much information and we don't know where to take what, and it's a little bit.
I hear you. I promise you, it's one of the things that we say around here is like drinking out of a fire hose. So there's a lot of information. Take what you took tonight back to your productivity coach, right? Also known as a PC, and say, this is what I learned and this is what I need. These are the gaps that I'm missing and I may need help with. Is that fair?
Good, thank you very much, Floyd.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but you didn't put your contact on the.
I have not done that yet. You are absolutely right. I'm going to stop sharing if that's okay so that I can do that.
Also, I don't know who it was that mentioned they didn't have the Ignite guide, but I uploaded it to the chat.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Floyd, can you repeat one more time about the checklist? Ask Chat GPT put in.
Bear with me 1 second. I am not the best
Yeah.
at typing and okay, go ahead, Christine.
If you can just repeat what you were saying about Ask Chat GPT about getting the seller list for the other agent who asked.
I would
The
say
seller-
that my prompt for Claude or Claude AI or Chat GPT would be, please show me the buyer's checklist, right, for my state. And I put, like, for me to be Pennsylvania, my KW buyers, Keller Williams, right? You got to put that in there so that it,
Keller Williams.
right? You can do that for the buy side or the sell side.
Thank you very much. I was just doing that today. Thank you.
And then go back to your market center and ask if this is
Right.
okay. Because they may have
Right.
something that, it may be another addendum that is just for your market center. It may not be statewide, right? That you may need to. Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. I apologize. I'm looking at all these things in the chat right now, and I did not hit every question. Yeah. Okay. I feel like you asked a lot of those questions verbally, so nice job.
I did what you asked me to do, and I got a checklist that I think is so wonderful, and I posted the link just now.
Thank you. I appreciate you doing that. I'm going to stop the recording.